What's going on, guys? It's Michael from GPURisers.com, and today we're going to be building a rig with 6 of these RTX 3070 Ti. So real quick, right off the bat, I am not sponsored by Zotac or anything like that. These Holo Amp Edition cards just have been the easiest to get. I got a couple of these off of StockX for right around MSRP. And I know that they're Zotac. These are the Amp Edition, so these coolers are actually pretty good. And we're gonna be pulling about 200 watts on these cards each, so we do want some adequate cooling. But here we have a 12 card case, just like in all the other videos. So 6 of these, 3 on each row. I believe the cooling will be adequate. There's going to be enough space for these things here to breathe, but we'll do a whole rundown on that later on. Now, I know these videos have gotten pretty long anytime I do, consolidation videos or anything like that, so I am going to break this into a 3-part series. Now, I know I did a part 1 that never really had any parts afterwards, and I've been kind of holding off on it because I realized, if I'm going to be building a rig with 6 of these, why not just do an analysis with 6 of them? And that's what we're going to do today. So this part is just going to be unboxing all 6 of these, checking the cards out, seeing how they look, going over the parts I will be using in this build, and just giving kind of my opinion on this part of it. But in the upcoming videos, the second one, I am going to be doing an analysis on the profitability for this, seeing what is, best to mine. Also, right when the, part 1 came out, a lot of these other miners, I know T-Rex miner at the time came out with a 70% hash rate unlock for these LHR cards on Ethereum. And I believe these actually get right around 60 mega hash, but we'll do that in the second part video. And then in the third part video, I know with the other cards, I would do an ROI analysis, for, how long it's going to take to pay off the card. So in the third part of this, video series with these RTX 3070 Ti's, I'm going to do an analysis on, one single card, but then also do a full ROI and tax analysis for 6 of these things. And hopefully that helps some of you guys out there. These cards MSRP for right around $1,000 per. I got them for around $1075 each. So I'm going to be doing an analysis on that, and also how much the motherboard is, how much the risers are, how much the splitters are, the SSD, and we have a 1600 watt power supply from EVGA that we're going to be using, and of course the 12 GPU mining frame. So if you already have all of the peripherals, the motherboard, and everything like that ready to go, and you just want to know the ROI if you were to swap cards out or just start fresh from that point, you'll have that analysis in the third part of this video series. But if you're watching this video and you're just starting straight from scratch, you have absolutely nothing right now, and you're looking to just start your first rig, hopefully doing an analysis on everything here that you see will help you in making that decision. So enough of that, let's go into the parts that we are going to be using for this build. Of course, we have this 12 GPU mining frame. There's not really anything to say about this. They're very popular right now. I am currently switching all of mine to these. I've mentioned it in the other videos. They just give everything more breathing room. We're able to add 8 fans to this. I'm not going to do it right now, but in the future I will be adding fans to all of them, and I'll do a whole video on fans and CFM and everything like that. So the brains of this rig is actually going to be the motherboard. Here we're going to be using a BioStar TB250-BTC, and I like this motherboard. If you watch the prior video, I believe it was the one where we announced the winners of the giveaway. This is one that we took off from one of the rigs to consolidate into one. And since we consolidated those 2 rigs into one to eventually hold 8 cards, you can see here there are only 6 PCIe slots on this motherboard. And I chose to use this motherboard specifically for this build because I will not be adding more than 6 of these. The reason for that, and we'll do a more analysis in the second part video depending on ETH hash and how that works with the 70% unlock, but just for my general testing, these cards use right on average about 200 watts. So 200 times 6 of these, we're going to be sitting at 1200 watts just from the video cards. And we're going to be looking at about 50 watts from system idle. Maybe 40, but we're going to go with 50 just to give a little bit of breathing room. So using the 1600 watt EVGA power supply, we're going to be running a 20 amp cord on it, but we are, like I said, going to be using around 1250 watts. And just doing a quick calculation, if we do 1250 and we divide that by 1600 watts, that's going to come out to 0.78125. So about 78%. You're always going to want to have a little bit of breathing room, but everything has an 80% rule when it comes to electricity. And if you're not familiar with the 80% rule, it's just a safety thing for heat and what the wires can manage. And wires, I'm talking about the wire from the power supply to the wall, and also the wires inside of your wall. So just say you're mining at home, you can go to your breaker box and say, okay, I'm going to put a mining rig in my second bedroom or something like that. Obviously you don't want to sleep next to one, but actually I'm in South Florida, so maybe you do if you're anywhere else in the country. But if you have a 15 amp breaker and that is at 120 volts, you're going to be at 1800 watts that you can run continuous through that outlet for that breaker, meaning that breaker is capable of 1800 watts. However, I just said continuous, and this is the maximum amount of wattage that you want to be able to run without actually tripping the breaker. But continuous, I shouldn't have said it before, but continuous, you're going to want to be applying a 80% rule on this. So if we times that by 0.8, we'll get 1440 watts. This means to be safe, you do not want to be pulling more than 1,440 watts through a 15 amp breaker at 120 volts. So since these are going to be using about 1250 watts, this rig would be safe on a 15 amp breaker. And since about 1250 watts divided by 1600 watts that this is rated for falls in line, right at 78%, we'll give it a couple more percent just for fluctuations, but we are right at that 80% rule. So that's why I chose the power supply, and that's why I chose these cards, and this whole configuration setup it's right on target. And actually I am biased towards the 1600 watt power supplies by EVGA. I would have used it regardless, but I do highly suggest these power supplies. Trust me, it is worth the initial investment to spend a couple more bucks to get these. I do believe that these, they have the new G2 rated ones, or G Plus, I think is what it's called. At the time of filming this, they are in stock on EVGA's website. These have 9 VGA ports. Like I said, I cannot recommend these things enough. These have saved me so many headaches. I've gone through so many power supplies, 1000 watt power supplies. I've done, the 400 to power some risers and the motherboard and maybe one card, and then I've done the 1000 watt to, do all the others and the add 2 PSU and all of that. And it's just, all of that was not worth it, especially when you're looking at it from a longevity standpoint. I have never had one of these go bad. And I have about 10 of them, and I have been running them 24/7, 365 for close to, I want to say, 3 years. Knock on wood though, now one is probably going to go bad that I said that, but these do have a 10-year warranty if you buy directly from EVGA. Most of these I bought third party. I did not buy them direct from EVGA, so I actually don't have warranties on a majority of these. But again, knock on wood, it will last another 10 years. Probably not, but we'll. Okay, so enough of the math. To run the Linux operating system, I will be using a GPURisers SSD. We do sell these on our website. They are 64 gigabytes. It's a standard SSD, but 64 gigabytes is the perfect amount for a Linux distribution such as MinerStat or Hive or Simple Mining. I personally use MinerStat on my entire farm. Can't recommend those guys enough. Just a rock solid operating system and a pretty cool UI, web UI dashboard. They could have a better app. I use an iPhone, and the app kind of just shows statistics, but you can always log in through your browser on your phone and have full access and full control over your all the regular controls. So enough of that. We will be installing MinerStat on our SSD. We will be using, in here are 6 of our 18 AWG wire white splitters. So here we have our 16 AWG splitters. Each of these cards are going to have 2 8-pins, which we're going to be using from this, and we are going to be running one single 8-pin from the power supply. Now, you can run about 255 watts max through a single 8-pin PCIe. Now, shameless plug here for GPURisers.com, but these are custom made just for GPURisers.com. These are not generic cables. These are true 18 AWG. They are hard to move. They are, not so malleable, but that's an important thing when you're running 200 watts through a single 8-pin. You want something reliable, you want something that works, and that's exactly what our splitter cables do. So I'm confident that these will be just fine. I have actually ran 3080s for quite some time, 220 watts continuous, and and these wires do not get warm, they do not get hot. They have just been great so far. So we have these for sale on our website at GPURisers.com. And also, of course, we will be using our 8 capacitor risers. So here, I'm sure majority of you guys have seen these before. We have our 8 capacitor in here. Shameless plug one more time. Here they are. We have our 2 LEDs, our logo. We have an LED in the back of this board as well. Gold-plated USB, very sturdy board. And of course, our 8 capacitors right there that we have on here. And we have our 1X chip in here, our black USB cable. The 1X chip also has an LED on it, so you will see a bunch of red lights over here indicating that they are receiving power from the motherboard. So I'm gonna leave all of that off to the side for now, but that is our sponsor for today's video, is GPURisers.com. We use all of our products and all of our rigs. We believe in our products, and that's why we use all of them in everything that we do. And that's also why you see a lot of these products being used in a lot of the other, YouTubers out there. Just a quick side note, we have never ever paid for a review. We simply send YouTubers risers, splitter cables, a couple SSDs, things of that nature, and we just ask for a fair, honest review of it. And again, we never pay for reviews. We believe in our products, and that's why we use them in our farm, and that's why YouTubers use them in their farms. A lot of you guys probably watch Red Panda Mining. His entire farm uses our 8 capacitor risers now, and he has not had any issues with them. So we are very happy about that. We actually sent him a couple before we release these, to the general public, and he's been loving them since. That's a big thing with risers, is they can be a major headache if you have ones that just die out randomly. So enough of shilling these products. Let's move on to unboxing these cards. So I have the first one out here. I've done a couple review on Zotacs before, but I don't believe I've done an amp Holo. This seems like one of their higher end models, so let's go ahead and open this up and check out what they got for us. All right, so we got the normal information packet there, some foam, some very colorful splitter cables, and the card. So let's take this out, and that just tore right open. Okay, that's not supposed to happen, but it did. Okay, again, doing this with one hand. So here we go. Let's put that off to the side real quick, and then we can close this back up. The bag kind of tore, but that's okay. I have a bunch of anti-static bags. We'll put that back in there, and we will not be using these. All right, so I got all of that back in there. It's a big box. Maybe I should get one of those chest things that I could use both hands with. We're going to stick with this for now. I've actually not seen one of these in person before. Very different. Let's take that off. It's pretty cool. I'm guessing that this lights up with something. I saw a couple YouTubers had these. I just truly don't remember what they did. All right. I don't know if you can see here, but it does look like that there are some power cords going off of the PCB and up into this. So I'm guessing that this turns on, but we'll figure that out in the next video. So real quick, this cooler does look really beefy. Here we got the 2 8 pins, which we will be powering via our 18 AWG white splitters. But you can actually see here, this cooler is thick. I've had the Trinity, and I've also had, I don't know what the twin frozen one, I don't know, it's like the 3070 and 3060 Ti. It's thin and very tall, suspiciously tall. So you can see the fins right here. Most GPUs have fins going that way on the radiator. However, a lot of cards spray heat. I don't know if spray is the right word, but they push air upwards and out. Blower cards are the ones with the one fan in the back, and it's all enclosed. So usually blower fans are at a much higher RPM, and they shoot air out of the I/O plate, which comes out of your back of your computer. But a lot of these new cards, I don't even think that they made blower editions for the 3070 Ti. Maybe an OEM Dell or HP or something, but majority of the cards do push heat out of the top here, and you can see that there's some space here, but this piece of plastic that, granted, looks pretty neat, is just completely blocking the radiator. All throughout here, there's just tons of plastic covering this entire radiator. So although it looks cool, functionally, I feel like that it's going to hurt it. Now you can see right here, the radiator does stop right in line with this. However, right here just completely blocks it. And, you know, looking at this more in depth, this is where the chip is right here. This is where a majority of the heat is going to be, you know, on the VRMs around it and everything like that. So there's not going to be much heat that's going to be able to escape from this thing. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is a beefy radiator. It has 3 fans on it. It's a large card, and it's only going to be consuming about 200 watts. But 200 watts is still 200 watts. 3080s get very hot. If not properly ventilated, they'll start thermal throttling and everything like that. So I am a little bit worried about these Amp Edition cards. The bottom here looks like it's wide open. I wish that the top was like that. So after looking at this right here, you know, the PCB board goes right, you know, to the end where you have your display ports, HDMI, all that good stuff, and it goes all the way to right here. Now this is important because this has a whole fan worth, I would say, yeah, a little bit more actually, of no PCB board. That means that this fan will be pulling air through here uninterrupted and straight through the back here. And that's important because if you look through here, you can see this heat pipe goes all the way through that. But this heat pipe will be very cool because of this fan. Meaning, you know, when this fan goes down to this heat pipe, or, you know, there's a couple heat pipes actually in there, but when these 2 fans go down, they hit the PCB. So it has, you know, hopefully cool air going in, and then it's trapped in there. And so the only way out is actually not through the IO plate. It looks like no air will actually come out of this. It will either be coming, you know, towards the motherboard or riser, or it will be going out the top. Yeah, actually looking through here, there are tons of heat pipes on this radiator right here compared to these 2. So good on Zotac for doing a design like that, because these heat pipes will cool down, like I said, substantially faster and way more efficient than these 2 over here. And also, let me grab a riser just so I can show you guys a little bit more of what I'm talking about here. So here we have our riser. Let's go ahead and open that motherboard clip and get it ready to put on. There it is. Let me push down a little bit. Okay, so that is fully on there. You can see that it ends right here. It ends before the PCB board. So this will actually be able to push all of the hot air out straight through the bottom of the card, which on a motherboard is not a fantastic design. You would ideally want it going out the other way so that your case fans would be able to blow it out properly. But since we're going to be using this style open air frame, it should be able to just shoot the air straight down. So right off the bat, the way that this card is designed tells me that I want to not line them up one on top of the other. And of course, you don't want to do that in general. However, especially in this case where this part of the entire card is vital in cooling it, you don't want to have one of these sitting right on top, shooting all of the air straight down into another card, because this fan is going to be doing, I believe, a majority of the cooling. So if you have it sitting right on top, granted, again, it has this giant piece of plastic here, which doesn't help, but air will still get through there. And if it has hot air getting through there, and this is really the only one cooling it, it's going to make performance on the cards on the bottom that much worse. And another thing to take into account is I see a lot of people using riserless motherboards, and I have nothing against riserless motherboards. I actually think they're pretty cool. Of course, you can't use my risers on them, but they are a neat design in the way that they have, you know, a full server case, and you can have them stacked on one another. But I'm bringing it up with this card because if you have these in a server case, all of this cool air that's going to be passing through here, hopefully cool air passing through all of those heat pipes and going through the bottom, are going to be hitting the bottom of that server case. So when you have heat trapped and, you know, about that much space for the card, it will bounce back and keep hot air floating right around here where a majority of the heat pipes are. So this fan will be just pushing hot air back and forth, you know, shaking it back and forth, and then bringing it to the rest of the card, covering the chipset, the VRMs, everything like that. So I know I'm ranting a lot about that. I would not suggest these cards in server cases, but let's go ahead and get these other cards out. All right, guys, I got all 6 of these 3070 Ti's out. So these are all ready to get onto our mining frame. But this first part was just to do a little introduction on the video, check out the cards, the parts we're using, why we're using them, the frame that we're using, a little bit about electricity. I went on for a little too long, and probably a little too long on the whole, you know, radiators on these cards, but I thought that it was some insightful information. It's always good to know a little bit about the card and a little bit about the build that you're doing to see if the card suits the build. So I'm glad we went over all of that, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut the video here. In the part 2 video, which will be coming shortly, I'm going to quickly put all of this together, make sure it all works, make sure they're all lighting up, seeing what kind of LEDs these are, making sure it pops up in MinerStat on our SSD, and then I'm going to be doing some testing. Now, we're not sponsored by MinerStat or anything. We just genuinely really do like the operating system that they have. They also have a Windows option, and you know, you can download a program that runs on Windows that you know, connects to their web dashboard and everything like that. However, we strictly use the operating system for Linux just for simplicity reasons. Don't have to worry about Windows updates or anything like that. So we'll do all of that in the next video, but it won't be the traditional, you know, Windows setup. It will be running on Linux, which is really easy to do. I'll probably do an actual video on that, but you should be able to get the same overclock numbers on this that we'll be using on MinerStat on Windows, but we'll be able to get an accurate pull for the wattage on this through MinerStat. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.